right, so if we look at what's happening right now in front of us, we can see the plan that the mayor put forward when we did Northwestern Mutual. It was very complicated at the time, and a lot of people, weren't totally understanding the potential impact, and those that did felt probably not doable. And the idea was to actually literally move two freeway ramps that used to come from 794 that would drop down onto Lincoln Memorial Drive, and those were an outgrowth of the flyover that occurred here, because originally Lincoln Memorial Drive was supposed to be a freeway. There was going to be a freeway section built there, and the ramps that we see at this intersection were designed as flyover ramps to feed that freeway, to feed the Home Bridge, and then 794 going back towards the Market Interchange. Luckily, that freeway was never constructed. It was stopped in the legislature, largely through activism here in the city of Milwaukee, led by a lot of political leaders, but probably more importantly by faith leaders. A lot of faith leaders, really congregations, really led the fight against the freeways, and was particularly the Park West Freeway, which would have been an extension of the Park East, which decimated. And to this day, there are vacant sections along North Avenue stretching all as far west as Sherman Boulevard that are attributable to the footprint of the Park West Freeway. So this idea of putting two ramps and dropping it down onto our front door never made any sense, but it was there. So we worked on a plan with, the county was involved, the city was involved, the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. All three of us put our heads together. The idea was, how do we basically move those ramps out of the way so that we can get a much better, much more elegant approach to our lakefront, which would be building a new Clybourne Boulevard here and making some changes to the area that we're right at right now, which is directly east of the proposed Couture site. The dilemma, of course, was you just don't move freeway ramps very easily. So that we negotiated that. Part of the dilemma was, where would you put that traffic? And we looked at 24 different iterations from an engineering standpoint of simply eliminating those ramps and figuring out how we could use the existing ramps to navigate the traffic patterns. But every one of those ended up with one fatal flaw, and that was queuing on the freeway system, which the federal government was going to allow, the state wasn't going to allow, for that matter. We didn't think was a good idea. So the 25th turned out to be the right idea. The idea we ended up implementing was, instead of just thinking that we have to remove those ramps and not replace them, how about if we move them over? So the design then became to move them over farther to the south. That freed up this entire triangle of land, allowed Clybourne as a boulevard to extend across Lincoln Memorial Drive to the area in front of Discovery World, removed all of the berms that were here. So now your termination vista looking east was the lake in Discovery World rather than looking at snow fencing on top of a berm, and allowing us to have a brand new interchange of Lincoln Memorial Drive and the freeway, not inconveniencing, actually enhancing transportation options for those who use the freeway coming in and out of the downtown. And then another significant step forward on this was the extension of Lincoln Memorial Drive into the 3rd Ward with an intersection at Chicago Street. This quadrant, the northeast quadrant of the 3rd Ward, was essentially a box canyon. Not easy to get in and out of. You had to approach from the south, you had to approach from the east, but you really couldn't, there was no good way to get in from the area to the east and to the north in this particular corner. So what this has done now is opened up this entire area. And where you see the blue buildings delineated on the map, that is where we believe we can have expansion of new structures. Most of this is surface parking right now, which is obviously not the highest and best use. One of those buildings is already under construction, Barry Mandel's group, Domus, which is along the river here. That's the building that is in the map here. There are a number of other proposals that are being discussed for the potential to develop this. So the Lakefront Gateway opened up the lakefront. It opened up the opportunity for the Couture to be sited here, for Mark Ergen's 833 Michigan building, which is complete. The Northwestern Mutual building, which is the reason why we moved all of this forward, because the city's $18 million commitment, which has now grown to $24 million, is actually being financed through the increment being created by the Northwestern Mutual building. The state put in $16 million. So this is also an example of the state working collaboratively with the city to get something done that the business community, the cultural community, and the larger community of Milwaukee, because we're growing tax base here. So this is providing additional jobs. It's also driving additional taxes that can be used throughout the city of Milwaukee.